Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, my friends, wherever in this beautiful, wonderful, wide world you may be. Or if you happen to be coming to us from another dimension, that's pretty cool too. And if you are coming to us live from the fifth dimension, do us all a favor, drop some stock tips in that chat. That's all I'm saying. I ask you for more than that. Claire did not prompt me to say that, but come on, real talk. You know you can hook me up. It's no skin off your tail. We're good. All right. Welcome to another episode of 40 Going on 4. Happy Friday. Really thrilled to be here today. This is the show that helps you at midlife or late early life or early late life or wherever the hell you are reconnect with your inner child and find that joy, spark, enthusiasm, and gusto again. I'm waiting to use the word gusto for a while. This is exciting.
Yes.
And since last week, we had a delightful Aussie guest on. It only stands to reason that we would have a Kiwi on this week. And do we have an extraordinary one on today? We have the great Claire Sewell coming to us live, actually from the French Alps. What's good, Claire?
Hey everyone, so great to be here, Jeff. Thank you. Hello everyone out there. Yeah, you got to bring balance to this, don't you? If we've got Aussie, we've got to bring Kiwi. Can't have it on like tilted.
No, absolutely not. And so that means next week we got to stay in Oceania. So if you know anybody from Papua New Guinea who wants to come on, that would be awesome. If you have any Samoans or Tongans, always welcome. I'll do a haka when we start this thing. That'll be exciting.
That will be exciting.
Yeah, I mean, but let's be honest about it here. I mean, we can talk like real folk. Like nobody can do a haka quite like the Maori and the All Blacks. Like that's.
I hear you.
That's what's up. You know the deal. Are there any rugby fans? Let's hear you in the chat. We have the perfect guest on for that today. So Claire is somebody who we all know and somebody who we all love. And if you don't, then just get out of here. We don't need any hecklers today. It's too early. Haven't had my second cup of coffee yet. Claire is someone who really helps women get over that, let's say, the mountain of midlife. Does that sound right?
Yeah, why not?
And when people come to you in this place of, you know, kind of those midlife doldrums, that heaviness, what do they present with immediately? What is the first thing that jumps out to people when you meet them and you have this moment of, wow, then we have a lot of work to do?
It's largely overwhelm, stress, the burden down with the seriousness and the responsibility of life. And that plays out in symptoms of, procrastination or just feeling like they're on autopilot. They've lost their joy, they've lost their excitement, and just feeling a bit blah, like a bit stuck, and wanting to get back and find their clarity and their purpose and their that gusto for life again.
Gusto, there it is. This is going to be the gusto episode. That's it. And what is it that weighs them down? Like what are the things they come to you with? Because I know folks go through this all the time, but today we're really kind of focusing on what really gets women specifically at this stage of life.
Yeah, I mean, it presents itself. So I talk about the symptoms, and the symptoms present themselves with challenges that they're having at work, or maybe like they got passed over a promotion, or and they can't really understand why or can't see through it. Like, so they can have like the day-to-day life challenges, whether it's work-life balance, or struggling at with home life. So it presents as those types of symptoms. It could be like feeling stuck in their career, like they landed into a career, they've been in it for 20 years, they've woken up and gone, I freaking hate my job, like, what am I going to do? I can't do anything else. So those present as symptoms, overwhelm, stress. But the root cause of that is always, and this is what I think is the number one joy stealer, is this absolute identification with their inner chat, their inner narrative. So they hear, you've got all the voices going on in their head, you should do this, you should be more prepared. Why did you say that? That was a stupid thing to do. You should have known better, like all that stuff. And that's just taken on as fact. And so they're so identified with this clanging gong that there is no room for any joy and excitement. And it's just like, go, go, go the whole time. And I've got this to do. And they've got, juggling so many different balls between work and home and, social and community, that it all just feels so serious. And it's all because of that.
Now, you know what alleviates the heaviness? Our guy, Ken Dunner. Kenny, what's up, buddy? Because when you savor the flavor of the awesomeness in us, of course, for sharing our delectable, scrumptiously, deliciously, edibly tasty, good, heartfelt thoughts. I'm hungry. You want to just bug
Oh,
out and get some
Ken,
food?
I love that.
We
All
just
those
get out of here and
beautiful
start eating. Like we just wrap this show
words.
up. And that's it. You know, that I think what you said really speaks to something people deal with a lot. And I know you talk about this, and I'd love to hear your thoughts, kind of elaborating it more. But that inner bully, the one that's just constantly in our ear, like, how do we deal with that inner bully?
It's a great question. And the first thing, and I think it's one of the easiest things to do, is because we're so identified with it, we've got to start really seeing the separation, that we aren't our thoughts, like that we're not our thoughts. It's not, our thinking isn't the truth of us. And there's this like funny, just a demonstration, like I can say, like I can point to my nose, and you say, well, like you point to your nose and you say, well, I'm not my nose. Oh, here are my fingers. These are not my fingers. Oh, here are my ears. I'm not my ears. But these are my thoughts. Oh, I'm definitely my thoughts because this says I am. And so we're so identified. So we want to find, get some space from it. And the first, like a really easy example to do with this is just to start noticing every time you have a thought that contradicts your experience of life. So, for example, whenever you said, I really don't want to go to that event tonight, it's going to be so dull, or it's going to be so boring, and then you've gone and it's been amazing. There you go. That's identity. You're not your thoughts. Hey, Maria, great to see you. And so then it's things like, well, when have I said that I definitely could never do that, or I hate that, and you've gone out and you've smashed it and you've been really good with it. So really starting to see that just bringing it out of our heads onto paper and looking at the validity of our thinking. Well, is that really true? Starting to question it. I call it self-inquiry. Just bringing them into the light, getting conscious of your thinking on a day-to-day basis, and just start testing it.
I like that. So this idea that you are not the bully and the bully is not you. You are two different things entirely. We conflate them a lot. We hear the bully like, well, it's obviously me getting down on myself, being hard on myself, giving me the business, but it's not you. It's this other thing. And like creating that separation between you when that happens. I look at that kind of inner bully almost like, somebody like in a back alley walking late at night and they show up and they kind of pin you against the wall and they pull up the jacket, they show a piece like, yo, I'm taking your joy, give it to me, nice and easy, nobody gets hurt. And you realize, wait a second, you're not mugging yourself of the joy, something else coming to get you. So yeah, I like where you're coming from with that. That makes a lot of sense.
That's such a great analogy. I love that. And so recognizing in that dark alley, when you've got the guy, the person's coming at you, you're coming at yourself, you just go, you're an illusion. I'm going to walk right out of here. And that's how you start learning to move through your self-doubt and your insecurities, and just recognizing that the thinking that you have in your head isn't real. It's not true. And it's not you.
I love that. Andy, welcome to the show, man. It's good to have you with us here.
Hey, Andy.
And coming to us live from the UK, which is awesome. It's about happy hour over there too. So really excited that you're joining us during happy hour, which is exciting to me. Pour one out for me, my man. Claire, I think about this a lot because this is something that a lot of my clients deal with too, particularly when I'm writing for them and they have to deliver. And this inner bully is just all up in their business. Like, you're not good enough. You're not smart enough. You're not clear enough. You're not articulate enough. You're this, you're that, and the other. I'm like, you're getting mugged by something that's coming to take your joy.
Yeah. And
don't let it happen. So now there's different ways of dealing with muggers. Now you can't call like the happiness police to come and get you, because, and the mugger's just going to come right back. They're going to let them out. They're going to get you the next day. How do you deal with this on a long-term basis? So we've created that separation, but it's going to come back because it always comes back. Can you just keep doing that, or is there something else you can do too?
Yeah, I do think after a while, I mean, there's lots of different ways, but I think, certainly looking at our belief systems. Hey, Olga, great to see you. Belief systems are absolutely the core foundation of every action and every result that we create in our lives. And belief systems is just another thought that we've had on repeat again and again and again for 20, 30, 40 years, right? So it's still a thought. but they play a little bit more hardball, you know, they really feel real. So there's, you know, this inner self-inquiry work, there's depth to it, right? But ultimately it is the separation of seeing the thoughts. I mean, when I was in the corporate world, and I still get it now, like I really suffered with imposter syndrome. And this work that I've done like over the years, so when I get, you know, moments of self-doubt now or imposter syndrome, like you're a fraud, what are you doing? I see it for what it is and I just laugh. Like it's just like, oh, there she is again, you know. And so you can after a while just start moving through it. But to start off with, it's so invisible to us. Like this thing rules our entire reality, and yet 95% of our thoughts are unconscious. They're invisible to us. Only 5% of what's going on in our head is conscious for us. So, you know, that's in itself like you can recognize that there's quite a lot there to deal with. But our feelings are a great emotional guidance system.
So 95%, you're telling us, so 95% of what's swirling around here isn't even, it's not even consciously available to us.
No.
We don't even know it's there. It's like a background program running.
Yeah. But what's so amazing about our system and the magnificence of this incredible ecosystem that we exist within is we have been, you know, dealt with emotions, an emotional guidance system. So even though you don't know what thoughts are going on, you have awareness through how you feel. Like, so if I'm feeling a little bit insecure, if I'm feeling like a little bit uncomfortable, I may not know specifically what it is, but I know that there's some shit programming coming into play, right? So that's when you want to stop, recognize, how am I feeling? Where am I feeling it? What is that feeling, right? Really name it. Is it insecurity? Is it doubt? Is it anxiety? Is it anxiety? Is it shame? Embarrassment, all of it, like call it out and then start getting to the root of where have I felt like this before and where do I think it's coming from?
Really dig
because
in.
Where we go with, you know, the emotions and feelings is, and this is such one of our greatest misunderstandings, is we think that our feelings are telling us something about the future.
Yep.
Or we think our feelings are telling us that our thinking's accurate. You know, you're not good enough at this. And the reason you're not good enough is because you feel terrible. See, so your feelings are telling you that you're terrible at this. It doesn't work like that.
No. And of course we have, like, every one of these shows, we have like a mic drop comment from Aliana. And of course this week is no different. And this is profound. This is going to sit. And I want everybody to kind of marinate on this comment for a second. You know, it's like you got a good roast and you got to get that good rub on it too, you know, especially that good herb, like the herb de Provence. You really want to get that in there. Let it sit in the fridge to really seep in. Let this one really seep in. This is great.
That is beautiful.
Make peace with your inner judge by agreeing with it. That's powerful. You lose all that polarity and resistance by doing that. And then it just melts away.
Yeah.
Like someone said,
resist persists, right?
I'm sorry, say it again, Claire.
Whatever you resist persists. So as Eliana's saying, if you grip with it and grapple with it and no, that's not true.
Absolutely. You know, one of the first things I learned when I started my comedy journey a long time ago, you know, back when the mental illness was really peak, which is the only reason you can get on stage and do that, by the way. It's the only route. But you know, all the other comics would tell me, you know, and this is, of course, New York, and you live there. You know how it is up there. You know, you got to take these hecklers and you got to gut them like a fish. That's the only way out of this. You know what I mean? You let them get over on you, you're screwed. And so this is what I internalized. And then you realize the more you do it, the more hecklers show up and you're attracting more and you go back and forth. And then I just tried something one set. One guy just got up and, in fairness, it was not a good set. He was within his rights. He said, "Get off the stage, you suck." And I just looked at him, I smiled and said, "You really do, you're right." This really does suck, man. And he actually started laughing, and the whole crowd started laughing, and that was it. It was over.
Amazing.
And I had him eating out of my hands the rest of the set. And thank God for him, because it really was a bad set. It was nothing funny.
And he turned it around, did he?
He did.
Amazing.
He did. And just I leaned into the energy of it. So like the external bully is just the internal bully being projected back at you.
That's so powerful. That is such a powerful realization. Like I always talk about go within and you'll never go without. Like what we think about ourselves, our self-perception is projected in the external world. So we're always feeling our thinking, you know, or we're always seeing the reality of what we think of ourselves.
Absolutely. And that heaviness comes back to us. So on that note, you know, when you work with a lot of clients, you know, who are at that kind of midpoint of life, and what would you say really weighs them down more than anything else, that they come to you, it's almost like a boulder that's sitting on them?
Yeah, I mean, I think just really, I mean, it is comes down to mindset. It comes down to not understanding how the mind works, that we are literally creators of our own reality. And so, you know, they can wake up in the morning, and this isn't just women, right? This is men and women all over. But the first thing we do when we tend to wake up in the morning is either grab our phone. So we're straight into it right away, you know, like into the judgment of its social media, the comparisonitis, like. And so we're already like marinating in sort of like stinky thinking. And then from there, then you start thinking about your to-do list, everything you've got to do today. And it might be like, you know, got to get the kids off to school, and I've got to do this, and I've got to get this prepared. And what's that teacher going to say about this? And I've forgotten it. Blah, blah, blah. And then work, I've got that really tough conversation. I've got that meeting. And I'm like, gosh, I've got to make. So this internal narrative is constant, right? And so we're setting ourselves up from the moment we open our eyes for negative vibes, low vibes. And as we're just sort of alluding to, everything in this universe is energy, and everything operates on vibrational frequency. So if you're consistently sitting in low vibes, negative vibrational frequency, negative feelings of worry and anxiety and overwhelm and stress and future projective fearful thinking, then you're going to continue to replicate that. Like, that's how the universe works. It cannot give you anything else other than more negativity. And so that's the biggest thing I think that weighs women down is all the responsibilities, creates all the thinking, creates all the negative energy, the emotions, the overwhelm, the doubt. And that just keeps replicating itself, and they're not aware of it.
I love that. And I think it speaks to the idea of almost like a raging forest fire, where the idea is, okay, and this tree begets the burning of that tree, begets the burning of that tree. And then it's just this massive out of control fire. So, okay, but we're going to fight it now. Got a gallon of vodka here, got a gallon of rum over there. Bring it down. Let's go. Got some ethanol. Let's pour it on. Gets even bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
And then we're wondering, well, why aren't the fires being put out? I'm pouring as much vodka on it as I possibly can. That's how this works, right? And you realize every fire will eventually burn itself out if you don't pour vodka on it.
Yeah. If you don't give it oxygen, right?
Yeah. Andy, by the way, you can catch the replay of this anywhere on Claire's profile on LinkedIn or my profile on LinkedIn. So just connect with us, follow us, and you can see the replay anytime you want. So
I really wish that I learned it in school as well, Andy, and I really wish that they teach every child this in school. And, you know, we have been blessed with the most powerful, magnificent, creative tool on the planet that sits between these luggy things. And we were never given the instruction manual. And in fact, worse, we're taught the opposite of how it works. You know, we're taught that everything out there is what brings us joy. Like, you know, get the good job, get the good grades, work really hard, get the good job, get the girl, get the guy, get the children, and then you'll be happy. Joy is an inside job. It 100% comes from our thinking. It can't come from anything out there. So we're living in a rat race. We've got, you know, millions and millions of people on a hamster wheel trying to get joyful. And they're on the wrong track.
Yeah, they're chasing dopamine hits of happiness and conflating that with joy. And let's talk about that, the difference between joy and happiness. And how would you define the two?
Happiness is like a feeling state. It's like pleasure is, you know, the feeling states of, or mental states of pleasure are happiness and excitement and entertainment. And, you know, that they seemingly come and go with things, with, you know, stuff that happens. Whereas joy is just an inner, innate emotion. It comes from within. It's always with us. It never leaves us. It's like our innate resilience. It's like our innate wisdom. It's our clarity, peace of mind. That is always there. Nothing and no one can take that away from us. It's a limitless capacity. And the thing that robs us of it is really our thinking that it comes from out there.
Yeah, it does. The joy mugger. Say the joy mugger's there. And Kimberly's comment's great. I love this. So important to be connected to our higher power. And I think that is very often misunderstood and I think misrepresented of what that higher power means. And for a lot of people, spiritual or religious language doesn't resonate with them, and that's fine. But I think it's interpreted that way and say, well, there is no higher power, so I don't want to hear it. And and that's, again, whatever floats your boat, however you live, that's fine. What isn't fine though is the denial that you are connected with everything. And this happens on the most basic scientific level too. So if you take all the other stuff out of it, take all the tarot cards and all the readings and all the crystals, take it all out of there, take everything you learned in church, take it all out. Come right back to the source of it. If that's all you believe, that's fine too. You're still connected with everything. You are still subatomically part and parcel of all things. And that ultimately is the higher power. So if you connect with that, no matter what your belief is, you're always home, always.
And what a magnificent power that we're connected to, right? It's the reason that I always talk about that we're limitless beings. It's the reason I talk about that we are this creative force and we can create whatever reality we want because we're connected to it all anyway. We are it. We're not the waves, we're the ocean.
we're it. We're the ocean. Like manifesting is a wave here and manifesting is a wave there. And all the waves judging the other waves like, oh, look at that wave. Can you believe it?
Yeah,
what
exactly.
A wave. What a stupid wave.
Yeah.
So glad I'm not a wave like that.
If you mock someone, you're mocking yourself. If you judge someone, you're judging yourself.
Yeah, can you believe that wave? Can you believe that wave came on the beach like that? Oh, can you imagine? So
what's Andy saying? It's like the joke of the Buddhist who asked the hot dog vendor to make him one with everything. After paying the vendor 20 bucks, the Buddhist hung around and asked for his change, and the vendor replied, "True change comes from within." Nice, love it, Andy. Boom.
Beautiful, beautiful. That's it. That's it. There's. Look at the gorgeous waves on the screen. Be still, my live streaming heart. Yeah. There's something really magical when you kind of lean into that again, and then you see the wave in everything. You see the wave in this mic I'm talking into. You see the wave in this water bottle. And I'll be honest with you though, and this is like real talk here. I don't see the wave in this marker. It doesn't stick. It doesn't like come off well. It doesn't stay on the board the way I need it to. So, God, can you believe this wave? Look at this wave. Ugh. Yeah. So, all right, guilty. What do you want?
Well, it's like we're talking about you see it, you don't see it, right? You see it, you don't see it.
That's it.
And that's the dance we're playing all the time. Am I the marker? Am I not the marker?
Right. And this is something too. We were talking about this in kind of the green room. I keep saying that, but what the hell?
No, it makes me laugh.
Yeah. How this game of like constant, like Alan Watts said, hide and seek with the universe. It's like, I am everything, but I'm not. But I am, but I'm not. And how do we give ourselves grace? Because this happens to us all the time, and particularly as we get into this like midlife morass. Yeah. We have this moment of call it enlightenment, illumination, connectedness. And then all of a sudden something will happen and we'll fall back into all these awful thought patterns again, that inner bully, this feeling of I've got to do this and I've got to do that and I've got to look good and I've got to make this money. And that suddenly becomes important again. And then you're like, wait a second. I thought I was past this. What happened? So how do we give ourselves grace when we get dragged back into that 3D mud, as I call it?
That's a great question. So I think there's a couple of things. And this, I go back to the point of self-awareness all the time, of being aware. Like, you can't change anything that you don't have awareness of. And so really practicing awareness. And it could be, I say with some of my clients, like when we're just starting out, like set your alarm for 10 o'clock in the morning and then 2 o'clock in the afternoon and 7 p.m. at night. And just like for 1 minute, just get aware of what have you been thinking for the last 10 minutes? What's been going on for you? So awareness is everything. Like, it's really key. That's the first thing. Secondly, the way that we can counteract that is to set up practices where we can start becoming quiet within. Like we can start, silencing that inner bully. We can start, this is part of the separation technique as well. And so like one of the most basic, easy things you can do the first thing you wake up before even getting out of bed is practicing gratitude. Like we so often go for our phone, and it's the worst thing that we can do for ourselves and for our energy and for our cells and from our health and from our mental perspective. It's just the worst thing we can do. So before you go for that, like I'm not trying to change you reaching for your phone, but just as soon as you open your eyes, like put your hands up in front of your face and start counting off 10 things that you're grateful for. And spend 30 seconds on each finger. Like, so you can start with the basics if this is new to you. Just like, I'm so grateful. I can get grateful about this every freaking day. I'm so grateful I'm in this delicious bed that I can have a good night's sleep, and you really get into it and you can feel the deliciousness of it. So really get into the feeling of appreciation and gratitude, and do that on the 10 fingers. That's 5 minutes out of your day. Now, people might roll their eyes at the whole gratitude thing. What a bore. This is like, I've heard this 100 times, but we go back to that thing about energy. And if you're vibrating at the cellular level of gratitude, which is one of the highest vibrational frequencies we can be resonating at, which is like love and joy and gratitude, then you're setting yourself up to, once we're in that high vibrational frequency, we're going to be attracting more of the same thoughts, more things. And when we're thinking great positive thoughts, then we're creating a reality of things in front of us, of experiences that we can feel more grateful for. So that's the whole reason of gratitude. So we're kind of training ourselves to get out of that negative, shitty, low vibrational mindset that's going to be creating more of that, and create an environment where we can raise our cellular, our cellular vibrational frequency. And it feels good too, right? You want to feel good.
I don't believe it feels good.
So it's just a small little practice, but those are some of the things. And meditation, like it's got such a bad rap because it's so difficult, because this is so busy. But just starting with 10 minutes, which is what I did like a couple of years ago, and it was hard. Some of these things are really hard. This thing has been on autopilot for most of your life, and it's set to beating the shit out of you, right? Meditation's not easy, but it settles it, and then you start getting into connection with the oneness, the higher power, source, whatever you want to call it. And it starts transmuting your thought patterns so that you can start resonating at a higher level. We're not living this life on our own. We're designed for joy. So if we can get ourselves into states where we're settled, where our mind is settled, and we can connect to this creative force that's like we're marinating in, then we have, it does the work for us for creating a life of more joy.
It's incredible how powerful that is once you lean into it. And I was the biggest skeptic on earth forever. I mean, and this is part of it. It was, I'll be honest with you, I didn't stand a chance. I come from one reason, New York City, comedian. You put these two things together, you're going to get the most cynical person on this planet. And my God, did I live that role well, and did I live that role for a long time? Did I just talk about marinating it? My God, that was me forever. I said, don't give me that woo crap about love and vibrations and this and that, you pseudoscientific frauds. And I don't want to hear it. And it's funny, the more I was in that space, the worse life got. And the more combative I felt toward myself, toward the world around me, the more hostile I felt. And, at some point you realize, well, maybe if this isn't working, maybe this is not the right way. Just maybe. Could be wrong, but maybe. And then that surrendering happens, and then everything just unfolds in front of you. And you realize what you were turned off by was not the message, but it was the messengers and the things that it was cloaked in. And there is a lot of chicanery around it, to be generous.
Generous.
You realize that was what turned you off. It wasn't the core of what was being communicated. But sometimes you have to come to a truth by yourself, on your own path, on your own time, your own journey. And it became so manifestly clear to me. And then, as Kimberly said, that vibration of love, it just swallows you whole. And once you're inside of it,
right?
Oh my God. Like when you step outside of it, how does that feel when you're outside of it temporarily? It's like,
Well, that's why I think it's so amazing, though. And that's why I think we've also misunderstood emotions so much. Because when we step out, like if everything is love and that love is all we is, right? Love is all we are. So when we step out of it with negative thinking and fear and lack and judgment, it feels yuck, right?
It does.
So that non-being part of us is like that. That's always, it's resonating in love the whole time. That the part of us that's always home, that's sitting there going, hey, what are you doing with that shitty thinking? Here, have some anxiety. Here, have some worry. Have some overwhelm. Because here I am. I'm standing in the vibration of love. Just come here. Come with me. But in order to do that, we have to come back to that. We have to raise our vibrational thinking frequency by coming back to thoughts, joyful thinking, gratitude. I'm grateful for that.
Boomerang back home. I love this comment by Jen. This is great. We can accept cynicism and woo. I love that.
Yeah.
Because I think cynicism, if there's nothing but cynicism, then you're just in opposition to the entire world. But I think it's that 3D check, which is important sometimes because, if you believe everything, then you're going to be led astray in a lot of different directions. And it's important to have that kind of discernment filter when certain things are coming your way. But I think that they can exist within kind of the greater scope. It's a difficult dance. And that's where that living in 4D really comes in. Like, how do you live in this dense, hard reality where you're cynical about everything versus how do you live this 5D reality where everything's connected and it's all perfect? But then how do you meet that in the middle? I think that's where the real magic is. That's tough.
Yeah. And I think that's where grace comes in, right? Massively. But I also think, we get, we want to have the good life all the time. Like we want to have we want to feel good all the time. And the moment we're not feeling good, we're like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. Like we don't recognize that polarity is absolutely critical for us to have any experience of life, right? You can't have, light without dark. It's not possible. You can't have the ups without downs. You wouldn't know joy if you didn't know despair. So, it's embracing the ebbs and flow of life rather than when we're in the trough or in the ebb going, this is a disaster. Like, I think there's something about getting curious because tension creates resolution, right? Tension. Nothing has ever been created without tension, without that, like, oh, this is terrible. And so getting curious about the tension, whatever it is in your life, gives you a different perspective. It's like, oh, I wonder what there is for me to learn about this. I wonder what this situation is trying to teach me, what it's trying to show me. Not to bypass your feelings. Like I'm not suggesting that, of course you're going to feel anxious and you go with that. It's horrible. But not to think that my life is over and this is terrible. It's to think, oh, there's actually something beautiful that can come out of it. That there always is. Anytime there's tension, there has to be resolution. If you look at anything that's been created in life, it's come from tension. So I think embracing that polarity is so much better for us to, experience more joy in our life as well.
I love it. I think that there's an alignment with, we're going to get grand now. We're good with that. We're going to get super grand.
Buckle up.
I think it is a fractal of the entire experiential journey of the universe itself playing out through us. Because what is this entire thing if not an experience in contrast? If not an experience in polarity? Now this is something you first have to accept, whether you want to or not. It's entirely up to you, and is everybody watching, But the idea of, if everything comes from this place, this perfect place, I obviously have a word for it, but this place where it's simply light and connection and perfection and everything is great, that's wonderful. But how can you ever experience that in its own glory and majesty if you don't understand the opposite, if you can't experience the opposite? To your point, how can you know what love is without heartbreak? And how can you know what good health is without poor health and illness and injury? So it's all these polarities working off each other. And this whole thing is going through the trough to come back out on the other side. It's like this long journey home. And part of what really drove me to, create this show here and to build this community we're doing is because this trough really manifests in midlife like no other place. I feel like at midlife, we get as far from that source, as far from home as we ever get on this journey.
Yeah.
But this is the turning point where you can go one of two ways. You can stay in the trough, or you can find your way back to the light. So how do we get back home?
Yeah, so I think you're connecting with our inner child, like, and remembering, like, looking at the world through the eyes of a child. Like, they're so curious. They're so, hey, Maria, they're so curious. They're so joyful. They're so present to the moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even when they're upset, even when they're crying their eyes out, they're like, moo, and then they see something over there and they're like, oh,
yeah, I'm good. Yeah,
like,
doesn't stay with them for more than a minute.
Nothing stays with them. They're so present to the moment. They're so present to the joy and the magic of being alive, and the curiosity. And I think there's a really important part of reconnecting to what we loved as a child. You know, what were the things that you just spent out, like, time went away with you. You spent hours and hours, whether it was playing or imagination, or, you know, for me, it was writing poetry. Like, what was that for you? And I think by the time we get to like the midlife, because it feels so heavy, is because we've become so identified with this this flesh suit of who we are, you know, our own personality and identity. And so we're constantly battling in our, you know, again, this narrative with the infinite self, I call it, the and the you know, the ego self. And so if I say to people, like, you know, get back in touch with your inner child, what did you love doing when you were a child? Like, generally the bully comes in, or the critic comes in and says, well, I don't know. And I couldn't do that. Like, I can't get, that's just childish. You know, I'm an adult now. Right. So we immediately want to barrage that idea, but go deeper than that, go beyond this and really get in touch. Like, just remember, and then start playing around with that. I was speaking with one of the women in my community this week actually, and she was talking about finding more joy, and she's recently gone out horse riding, and she sent me a voice note on it, and she was like, oh my gosh, I remember what it was like. It was so joyful. I remember everything, like when I was a child. Like, so it's that, like, what is it for you? You know, getting back to what brings you joy, just remembering, and then spending more time doing that.
Leaning into it. Really leaning into it. You know, we used to do that too. Actually, it was the horses and the ponies that really gave us joy too. You know, growing up in Queens, you go to the racetrack, you lay $20 down. Let's go. Come on. Let's go to place. You know,
I love that accent.
Don't tell me you don't miss it. I know you miss it.
Yeah, and it's you know, we've got to make space for ourselves. You know, we're so, like, all the responsibilities, and you know, I hear this all the time. I don't have time for that. I don't have time for meditation. Or I don't have time for gratitude. And you don't have time not to, because your life is being sucked out of you minute by minute when you're not doing this stuff.
Oh, I'm going to do a LinkedInism now. Louder for the people in the back.
Yeah. I loved your post that you did about that. It did make me laugh.
Say it again, Claire. We don't have time not to.
Yeah, we don't have time not to. I mean, you know, if someone says to me, like, I don't have 10 minutes to meditate, you're the one that needs it the most, pal. You know, you need to spend 3 hours meditating.
Yes. Yeah. The too busy, this and that. Yeah.
Yeah, we owe it to ourselves. We really freaking owe it to ourselves. Like, we owe it to our joy. We owe it to our children, the examples we're setting, to give time to ourselves, to love ourselves and come back to the truth of who we are. Because at the moment, we're so stuck up here in the fiction of how life works and who we are. And there's so much more available for us.
That's just it, the fiction. It's a fiction. It's a story. It is nothing more than a story. It's a game. And if we think it's real, ask yourself how real it would be if somebody, and I hate to use violent examples again in this, but somebody bashes over the head with a crowbar. And
New Yorker.
Yeah, of course. But this is, you know, it's baked into the cake. Let's say you wake up the next day and you don't know who you are. You don't know what your name is. You don't know what job you have. You don't know who your family is. That moment, it will become clear as day that it was all just a story. And this new you now, who has still his executive function as a person, but has no attachment to that story anymore, you quickly realize it was all just a construct the entire time. Yep. And you can write a whole new story now, branching off in a whole new direction. Now, you may want to go back to your old life if it served you, but if it didn't, hey, you've just been given the gift of the reboot button.
Change it. There's this a
Yeah.
book called The 5 Regrets of the Dying, and it was an Australian. I can't remember what the name of the job is, but she was nursing. She nursed people for about 12 years before they died, and she wrote a book about the 5 things that the number one regret of the dying basically was, I wish that I'd lived my life for me rather than living it how everyone else wanted, how I thought everyone else wanted me to live. And when I read that, I literally cried, because can you imagine being on your deathbed and looking back at how life could have been so different for you and having a regret on the way that you lived your life? I can't think of anything
It's never too late
worse.
to become who you could have been. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it breaks my heart when I see that. And you could always tell the people you meet at their latter stages of life. There's always the two kind, and you have the joyful kind and you have the really, really miserable types. And the miserable ones are, and it's not circumstantial, it is based on how they lived and how they pursued their inner truth and their inner fire. And the ones who have this joyfulness about them, this playfulness, doesn't mean they lived that the whole life, but at some point the light bulb went on and they made that shift, and you feel it palpably in them.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not, I think it's really important to make clear as well, this is an innocent misunderstanding, right? We don't do this to ourselves, willingly. We are caught in this trap of how life works, and it's reinforced in the external world as well. Like, as soon as we go to school, we're conditioned to believe that, you're as good as everyone else, or the average of everyone else, or we're marked on, unless you get A's, then you're not going to have a good life. Yeah. And we're marked on not our own individual amazingness. We're marked on, these average qualifications on how life should be. Yeah. So we're constantly told that we're limited and lacking. And then we go into the corporate world, same thing. You're judged by your self-worth comes from how much money you're earning. Like we live by, or what our title is. So we live in a world that is continuously reinforcing this lie that we're limited and lacking. And so it's a totally innocent misunderstanding, So this, I know that this, there's only a certain type of clients that work with me because they don't get it and they're not interested in hearing it. And that's cool too, And I think we can sometimes come to this, when we're ready.
Oh yeah, big time. And I love the fact that people do work with you on this, because it shows that inner fire is still there and it's screaming at them, let me out. Let me come out and play again. I'm not done yet, but I need somebody to help bring it out, because whatever I've been doing is not getting me there. But they're willing to make the investment in you to get there. That's amazing.
Yeah, and I love that. I think there's 2 points about that. I think it's so common when I'm speaking with my audience, which is female leaders, that at some point in our conversation they'll say, I just know there's something more. I just know there's something more for me. And that's the universe like knocking on your heart, like there's more for you,
screaming at you.
Yeah. And then that point where they go, yeah, let's do it. Like that point is such a point of joyful celebration, because they're giving back to themselves and they're starting the journey of who they truly are. Like I couldn't be more happy when someone says yes to working with me for the infinite exploration that comes out of this work, right? I started this myself probably 20 years ago, and it's still unfolding for me, and I still love it, and I still am in awe at how magnificent we are as human beings and what we're capable of.
I think that's such a good point when you say still working on it, because I feel like there's a misconception, particularly with people who are coaches, that they got it all figured out. They got it now. They've been through the valley of fire and they came out on the other side like that. I'm good. You come to me now. I'm your Yoda. I got you. Yeah, we never get it figured out, do we? Does anybody ever really get it figured out? Truly.
That's like saying, what is the universe, right? Like that's like saying you've got life figured out, you've got the universe figured out. I live in joy for a large percentage of my life, and I'm always still getting stuck with like I still miss it, and then I like we said, you see it, you don't see it, but through my practices and through my understanding, I can come out of it a lot quicker. And that's the difference, I think, of getting on this journey. Like, you start becoming so aware of your inner chatter, and you start guiding it, and you start nurturing it and nourishing it. And my life practices are so different now to what my life looked at 5 years ago, certainly 20 years ago. And that's because I can appreciate how important this is, how important it is to nourish and nurture what's going on here. Because we are creating our reality through it. We're creating our reality through this incredible system, within this incredible system.
Creating. And I love that. That's what it is. It's creating.
Yeah.
There's a constant state of motion and creation. Like Aliana said, maybe there's nothing to be figured out. Maybe it's just expression and experience and creation.
Evolution.
For its own sake.
Expansion.
Constant, just cause.
Yeah.
That's it. People can't accept that. I would say a lot of people can't and won't accept that, because that goes so counter to the programming that we've been fed and inculcated with since we were kids. This idea of there's a point to everything. And I know we talked about this in other shows, but this idea of, you teach to the test and you get the job, so you get the paycheck. It's like the goal is everything. But what if it isn't? What if the experience is the goal? Until you get to the next experience, and on and on and on into infinity. How cool is that? And how much pressure does that take off your plate?
I was just thinking that, right? Yeah. Like, it's so liberating, isn't it? To realize that there's nothing to do. And if we can just sit in being, then, sorry.
We lose you?
Oh, yeah, are you there?
Yeah, the Alps get a little weird sometimes. Don't tell me there's another Panzer invasion. I thought we were past that.
The gremlins, the tech gremlins. And if we spend time like sitting in the being, like, who do I want to be, and what values come from that? Like, the doing kind of takes care of itself. But as you said, the program is so much like, gotta have a goal, gotta do it, gotta do. You
gotta do it, gotta do it all. And if you don't, you're a failure, and you blew it.
Yeah.
And
so a lot of people won't be able to hear this because of the conditioning, and they've done a great job on us, right?
Yeah, God, have they ever? And I fell victim to it for years.
Oh, me too.
Especially when you're in sales, you have quotas. You're so oriented to specific, numeric, tangible accomplishments, and there's a cut line between success and failure, and it's really clear to see which one is which. Hit this, you're success. You don't, you're a failure. Now, either way, you're going to drink your face off every single night because you were in sales. This is whatever. But that doesn't seem to make a difference for anybody who's actually doing it. But in terms of the actual perception, and you're on the board as you're making President's Club and you're going to Barbados, or you're not, and you're working weekends to make up for it. But it's either way. And I've done both. Yeah. And neither one is fulfilling. I'll tell you that.
There's something about, though, I think, with sales teams, and this is where I could really see some value and some difference in the understanding with this, is when you look at that. I think it's, I can't remember the guy's name, but he wrote that book, The Inner Game of Golf. And the formula is performance minus, our performance equals potential, our limitless potential, minus our mental interference. And so with sales, there's so much mental interference, right? Like, what do they think of me? What do they think? What's going to happen here? What if I don't make my sales quota? And what if I don't do this? And I'm going to get fired. And that in a narratives for anyone, right? But it's more. I think it's more particular with sales because their self-worth is set on what whether they hit their target or not, right? Seemingly,
yeah.
And so when you can remove that mental interference, and then they can show up at work with all that going on in their head, with a mental clarity and a presence, that it's fascinating to see how salespeople just change the game astronomically from that one come from.
Completely. I noticed how different I was doing sales for somebody else, selling somebody else's stuff so they can get all the money, versus selling within my own business when I started it, and how dramatically different it was energetically. And not just because I believed in what I was selling this time around, that helped. It was this idea of, I'm excited to do this today. If I sell a lot, great. That would be the goal. And if I don't, I'll figure it out. I was just excited to do it. And to this day, I get calls every day, and I'm just excited to take them. When they come in, I'm excited to have the conversation. And if
Yeah,
I don't close,
curiosity.
I don't close. That's cool. And if I do, that's cool too. And it's just fun.
It's that detachment, isn't it? I think
It is.
I think that's what's beautiful. Like you realize that, you know, it's not that I don't set goals or I set intentions really, like, and I'm very clear on them, but I'm also very clear that my self-worth isn't attached to whether I hit those goals or not.
Yes.
And so that gives me a freedom to just sort of play, like you're saying, just play, have fun, get curious.
Yeah.
There's not so much like, oh, I've got to make that target, otherwise I'm useless, otherwise I'm not good enough, or everyone will think that I'm a loser, or, you know, what I don't have that going on.
And that's
anymore.
the thing. And that's talk about that programming that we carry in midlife, this fear of being perceived in a certain way, being perceived as a loser or a failure or not as good, this or that, you know, and it doesn't matter who you are or what background you come from, that is so woven in, so deeply woven in. And we all have it in different cultural contexts. And sometimes men have it different than women in certain ways, sometimes exactly alike. But I'm curious from your perspective, with particularly the female clients that you've worked with, what would you say are very kind of uniquely, I would say kind of middle-aged, midlife fears that really kind of seep in, and the ones that people are just terrified of not living up to?
I think a really common one is dropping the balls. And it is like this fear of judgment, and which is ultimately fear of rejection. So if I'm not Superwoman, what will everyone think of me? Like, or what's going to happen to me? Like when they realize, you know, and imposter syndrome comes into this a lot, when they realize that I haven't got it all together. And so that creates, again, very common. It creates an environment of where they feel like they need to be in control of everything. And again, you know, so perfectionism comes into this a lot as well. So, but if you have a life where everything has to be so controlled, then where is the room for joy? And that comes back to, as well, the whole idea of control comes back to believing that I'm limited and lacking. Because if I don't have all the balls, like everything's not lined up, if I haven't got perfect control over everything, then that means that I'm not good enough. That means that, you know, I'm going to be judged, or I'm going to be outed from my job or whatever. So it comes back to that, like, you know, that limited and lacking, that I'm a separate self having to do everything on my own. But it's a big one, particularly because, you know, women are, you know, we're natural nurturers. And so we do take on responsibility for, you know, for obviously for our family and for our friends, and we're caring and nurturing. And so that sort of heightens the importance of the balls that we've got going on in the air and the need to keep juggling them all. And I think that's a big part of the 40, you know, you hit 40s and you're sort of like, I've got so much on my plate, you know, and success is important and we have to be seen to be doing it all. But we talked about work-life balance as well, right? And I think that's another myth of thinking that, you know, we can certainly do it all, but thinking that I can have to have everything, you know, at the same balance as everything else. Like there's going to be times or seasons where you're focusing on work, and, you know, family, you can't be there 100% for your family. And then there's times when you're 100% for your family and you're not focusing on work. There's this whole work-life balance of everything has to be like balanced. It's fictitious. It's fictitious.
Everything, all the time. You know, you're spinning the plates.
Yeah.
All the time, constantly spinning the plates. Well, good luck with that. Seriously.
I was just feeling a bit of anxiety thinking.
Let me know how that works out.
It's real. It's real for a lot of people, and I get it. I get it, you know, and that's why I think this work is why I'm so. It brings me so much joy to share. And because it's such a release of that mirage of who we think we need to be, and really birthing the truth of the magnificence of who we are and the capabilities and the potential that comes with that. And certainly joy is a major factor when we can get rid of all the head stuff.
Oh, that's alchemy at its finest, isn't it? Take that heaviness and you just turn it into gold, which that's actually a really bad idea because gold is really heavy and that might crush a couple of ribs. So don't do that. Don't alchemize it into gold. Just get it off of you. How's that for you? Just move it through. Let it be a visitor. Like, yeah,
from
I
lead
see you.
into bubbles.
Yes, there it is. There it is. Like, I see you. I recognize you. I understand who you are, what you are, why you're in my ear. I know why I believe in you, heaviness. I know it. I get it. But you're not me and I'm not you.
Mm.
You're just stuff. You're just thoughts. You're just passing circumstances. Like, no matter how much you're dealing with at midlife, you will not be dealing with it forever.
Yeah.
You won't. Everything is transient. All the responsibilities you have on your plate now, you're a parent, you're racking your brain about these kids. They're driving you nuts. Guess what? They will not be in your house forever. And if they are, that's a different conversation. We got bigger problems. But
well, it's also thinking that
change.
you can, you know, we're all electromagnetic beings, children included, and children sometimes have, well, a lot of the time have it more together than we do. They're great teachers. But thinking that you can control the way, or, you know, you want your child to be brought up exactly the way as how you think. I mean, that's the utmost in ignorance, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
To think that we can control anything, actually.
Yeah, we try.
It's misunderstanding of how it works. Yeah, we sure do. We sure do try.
Do we ever? Think about those relationships, the really strained ones between grown adults and their parents. And think about the great relationships. And there's really just one common thread you see with both. And the strained ones are always the parent is trying to impose their vision of how life ought to be on their child, on their grown adult child. And they're highly critical of every little thing which doesn't match up exactly the way they think you ought to do it. Versus the other parents that are just super chill. Like, they just love you. That's it. They just love you. They've got your back. No matter what you're doing, they're there for you. If you're struggling, they're going to help you out. If you're doing great, they're going to be your biggest cheerleader. But either way, they see you as an autonomous person having a journey. They're just there to love you and support you. And those relationships are incredible and they're inspiring. Versus the other ones, and you see it, like you see it immediately. And then, but if you're inside of it, it's hard to see sometimes. Like, you know, why is my mother driving me nuts?
Yeah, and no judgment, because I don't have children, right? So people, you know, parents often will hear this and go, you know, you don't understand. And I totally get it. Yeah. And it's not to say that there's no that you know, that rules and regs aren't necessary, but there is a way of nurturing someone to recognize that no matter what happens, they're going to be okay. Like that inner well-being, that innate well-being. And in order to nurture that in someone else, obviously we've got to nurture it in ourselves. You can't teach anything if you haven't got the lesson yourself, you know. Yeah. And we're massive, like, you know, children watch us. Like, I see my nieces watching me all the time and mimicking, and, you know, from what I do. And so we've got to be the lead, don't we?
Yeah. My niece was watching me play chess with her in December, which was probably a really bad idea since I'm not a great chess player. So she's learning all the wrong techniques. So just a little lesson out there, folks. If kids are watching you, make sure you're on your game. Otherwise, you're not doing them any favors. Doesn't matter what you're doing.
Or it's a great lesson to know that, like, failure happens, right? We all stuff up.
There it is too. I'm just human. I know, like, I'm your superhuman, like, Funkle, but at the end of the day,
Funkle, I love that.
Yeah, that's the best part. You can just be a Funkle. You know, you go down there, you spoil. You can't
really be a font, though, can you? That doesn't really work.
No, it doesn't. I mean, it can, and then you get a lot of crap from a lot of other people. But you know, you're on tour with your band. You know, 50 weeks out of the year, you pop by, you give the kid a gift, and you bug out again, and it sounds kind of fun. So, but
bug out. That's such a Top Gun reference.
Yeah. One of my favorite love a good Top Gun reference. Actually, that reminded me of something I wanted to bring up there. We talk about not looking at your phone first thing when you wake up and letting that heaviness just kind of seep over you. I think one thing you can also do, if you're not a meditator and you're not into gratitude, and, you know, I think these are great things to be into, but if it's not your thing, there's other ways to do it. Find something which just makes you laugh. Something which is a go-to. You can pull up on TV or even on your phone, and you're not supposed to look at your phone, but curate your phone experience. So don't let other people implant stuff into you, social media and otherwise in the news. Find something which you just love, which brings you joy, which makes you laugh, makes you want to dance, and let that start your day and watch how your day changes.
Yeah, such a great shout. Like, there's so many different things. It could be just like movement. Like, it could be like laughter is amazing. It could be reading a book, you know, like whatever lights you up, like whatever you feel and hear brings you joy, just do that in the morning rather than, give to yourself first. Give to
Yes.
yourself first before giving to the rest of the world. But I think it must have been a couple of years ago. I went to one of those laughter. I was at a networking event. That's right, online. And one of the guys that came in, he was just like a laughter specialist, and he just got us just started laughing. So you're like, ha, ha, ha. He goes, do this, ha ha ha. So we're like, ha ha, and everyone's looking around like feeling really weird. But after a while, just watching everyone, it was so funny. I was doubled over within about 10 minutes, just crying with laughter.
Was it
And
Pete?
the power in
Pete
that.
McCann, the laughter man? Was that it?
I think it was. Yeah, it was him. Yes.
I love that guy. He's incredible.
He's amazing.
He's so fun. Such a wonderful spirit.
It was so joyous. And that's the power of laughter, right?
It is. Laughter is the quickest way home.
Yeah.
That is. That you want to talk about the bullet train to get home? That's it. Laughter will get you back to yourself because you're not thinking when you're laughing. You're just laughing. You're not
You're just
overthinking.
in joy, aren't you? Yeah.
You enjoy.
Yeah.
That's it. It's as simple as that. Magical. How incredible is that?
I love laughter. I just, if I watch anything on TV, and I really do, but my go-to is always like Live at the Apollo or, some like sort of comedy special, like it just stand up. It's my release. It's just pure joy.
Yeah, don't ever watch any of my stand-up. You won't have any joy or release of night. Like, what am I doing? What am I doing with my life? I'll never get these 10 minutes back.
I remember just binge watching your posts, binge reading your posts one day. It's just like, it's so funny.
God help us all.
I just sit there and go, how do you think of this stuff? Like your mind.
I don't. And that, you know what? That's what it is, honestly. That's the secret sauce. I don't think of it.
Love
it just comes to me in this moment of joy. Whenever I write any piece of satire, I have two thoughts in my head. I laugh and then I just start typing and it just comes through. And then I look back afterwards and I have no idea what I wrote. I don't know how I wrote it. I know I couldn't do it again if I had to. So I just hit post. I don't care if it's 11:30 at night and I don't care who's reading it. I don't care where it gets. This is funny to me right now. So I'm going to joyfully share it. And I don't care if I get 2 likes or 200, it doesn't matter to me. And I think
that's so key. That's so key because someone out there somewhere, you're going to give them a smile, like Laurie says post those stand-up videos and I 100% agree, Laurie. And Melvin, there you go. I liked your stand-up. So you're being
let's put it this way, that the stand-up that I've done that I have on YouTube anyway is not stuff that's LinkedIn friendly. Let's put it that way.
Right. Not linky friendly.
Not particularly.
I say things like if I'm walking, walking in the streets, I'll say things to people. I'll compliment people all the time, whatever I'm thinking. If it's a nice compliment, I'll just say it out randomly to people. And if I'm walking with friends, they just like, stop that. It's so embarrassing. But you just never know, right? You never know when someone's just going to like just give them a little joy burst or like a smile on the face or just to perk someone's day up, right?
You act from a place of joy and creation. You are subconsciously putting it out in the field that everybody else has permission to do the exact same thing. You can, they say dance like no one's watching. I've danced like no one's watching. Then I find out people actually were watching. I have, and then I dance even harder. I'm like, screw it. This is fun. I'll do that sometimes in the morning. I'm firing up some breakfast. I'm making an omelet. And I said, my neighbors can see, from like across the yard and everything. And I know they're looking at me. I'm like, what's up? And I just get after it even harder. I don't care. It's fun. I enjoy it, but it gives them permission to dance too. Like, you get after it. Let's go. What are you waiting on over there? Come on.
Totally. And the field is always listening, right? The field is always listening. So what do we just like, that's why we've got to be so mindful about what we're putting out all the time.
Absolutely. So whatever you can do to get that energy level where it needs to be, if you're going to laugh, if you're going to dance, if you're going to singing and dancing are great for the vagus nerve, by the way.
Amazing. Humming even. You don't even have to sing, like humming, great for the vagus nerve. Yeah, and of course, really connecting with the vibration of the universe, it's all good.
To be clear, not the Las Vegas nerve. That's a different nerve that'll hit you in a different way. Fun way, great way.
Like a ton of bricks.
Different kind of nerve. Claire, this has been amazing. What parting message would you give the folks watching today about, I know that we've really focused on, kind of women at midlife, but for anybody watching, what would you say is the quickest way for them to come home to themselves every day?
Oh gosh. I'm going to come back to awareness. Like, just start thinking about your thinking, and really be present into the moment, present in this moment. Like, I look out now and look at the window, and like there is beauty all around us if you're open to it. And when you start recognizing beauty, you're already on the way. Like, that's home. Like, you're already on the way home. And the more you can see the beauty in everything, the closer. Well, that's it, isn't it? That's it.
Beautiful.
So I guess just stay
Beautiful.
present to the moment. Stay present to the moment and get wise to this stuff.
That's it. Get wise to it. And now I want to give a little plug over here for all of you who are still pondering maybe going somewhere this summer. I want to take a little bit of a vacation, and I cannot recommend enough going to beautiful Kearney, Nebraska. And if you don't know why, read this book and you'll understand. Friends,
Can I just double? Yeah. I don't want to plug that book, because that is what I was just saying to you before. Like, it's just been it was the most joyous book that I've read in a very long time. It's 3 hours, folks, of pure bliss, and I would highly, highly recommend it. It's an amazing book.
Thank you. That's very kind of you, Claire. I appreciate that.
You're
and
welcome.
For those of you in the DC area, come on down Thursday, July 27th at Arlington Rooftop Bar and Grill to meet a community of people who are also coming home to themselves at midlife. It's going to be a really fantastic LinkedIn meetup. Hit me up in the comments for more details. Claire, I cannot thank you enough, my friend. This has been awesome. And everybody in the comments, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah.
Happy Friday. Love you all.
Thanks, everyone. Goodbye.